According to Pew Research, 42% of all Americans have had a friend or relative suffer from a terminal illness. That means almost half of you in this room have had personal experience with the pain and suffering that causes. Physician-assisted suicide should be supported to protect the autonomy of the people. We should have the right to control our own lives, even in death. Assisted suicide offers us the right to control the circumstances of our death and determine how much suffering is too much for each individual. I've read a lot of articles, and I've reached this opinion based off of the information I found. Physician-assisted suicide should be made legal in every state of the United States. For these reasons, without it, people are suffering and losing rights over their body to end it. There are already successful laws protecting it as an option for patients, and it gives people rights over their body without harming anyone else. Assisted suicide is still a fairly unheard of thing in most states of the U.S. Even though the country emphasizes the preservation of rights and the pursuit of happiness, and states that don't allow assisted suicide are hurting the rights of its people. It's causing people to suffer without a right or choice to end it. A case of this forced suffering is John Bedanza, a man diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and who supported assisted suicide even before his diagnosis. But because Massachusetts legislature voted against it, he was forced to die in physical agony in 2015. His widow has since said he suffered a prolonged, painful death because Massachusetts denied him the option. A similar case is Steve Doyle in Ohio. After being diagnosed with late-stage prostate cancer and being denied the right of a physician-assisted suicide, he decided to stop taking his medication altogether. He made the conscious decision to stop taking pain and other life-saving medications to end his life closer to his own terms. He said before his death that it's too late for me to benefit from assisted suicide, but it isn't too late to advocate for it as a basic right. And there are a number of advocacy groups who are fighting for these rights for people. One of the most common groups is Death with Dignity. They've been fighting this battle since 1994, with the sole goal to expand the right of assisted suicide to all qualified ill Americans. And Death with Dignity works close with the public to try to get these voices heard and change as many minds as they can, because they know it's people who change laws. And it's something that's actually wanted by most people. According to a Gallup poll, 68% of all Americans are in support of legalized assisted suicide. And these people who want it are pushing for state laws. States are trying to open it up as an option. According to a patient rights group and past state law data, more than 200 legislative proposals in 36 states have been brought upon since 1994. Arizona alone has made 10 proposals since 1996, yet it still remains illegal in the state. As of 2017, 5 states and DC have legalized assisted suicide. These states include California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Vermont. Some go as far as to argue that it should be a protected right under the Constitution. In a 1997 Supreme Court case, Washington versus Glucksberg, Dr. Harold Glucksberg and a group of practicing physicians went against Washington's state ban of assisted suicide, saying the right to die should be protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. The Due Process Clause is there as a safeguard to protect people in all cases of life, liberty, and property. The district court agreed, saying it placed an undue burden on the constitutional right to express personal choice. And the Ninth Circuit Court agreed as well. It was the Supreme Court that disagreed. However, it was decided upon that the legality of assisted suicide would be made up for each individual state, meaning we can still make it happen. Assisted suicide is something that's supported with a history of successes. The introduction of assisted suicide leads us to see people extending their rights and autonomy. Bioethicist Louis Vaughn said, if their pain is unbearable and untreatable, and they make the autonomous request to die, it is within ethical bounds. Consider an 80-year-old man suffering from cancer who has told his doctor the suffering has become too much for him to handle and wants to go through with assisted suicide. If it happened in states like Oregon, then his decision is not only accepted, but respected, and he had that choice and right over his own body. We could make the whole country look like Oregon. Assisted suicide has been legal in that state for over 10 years. And in those 10 years, it's still been a relatively low choice of death for the people in the state, going against the initial fear of it becoming a state suicide center. Within the 10 years, 541 Oregon residents have received lethal drugs to end their life. But out of these people, only 341 have actually went through with it. The evidence from Oregon emphasizes the success legal physician-assisted suicide can bring. It also shows that it's a well-thought-out process and leaves no real danger of increased deaths. It doesn't increase death, it only gives those suffering a right they deserve to end it. It may be hard to see why it's still illegal, but this is where you come into play. The more support each individual gains, the easier it is to accomplish. In conclusion, physician-assisted suicide is a safe way to protect the individual rights of every person. It gives autonomy even in terminal illness and death. In review, without it, people are suffering with no right to end it. And there are already laws protecting it as an option for patients. And it's proven to give rights while being unharmful. In a time of suffering and feeling weak, every person should have the rights over their body. Wouldn't you want it if it happened to you?